All right, we are live. What's up, brother? How you doing today?
Dude, I'm good, man. You got me up early in San Francisco.
Yeah, it is early your time. Thank you for doing this early. That's awesome. What day, just
Yeah.
curious, what day is 75 hard are you on?
Day 26.
Okay,
It's only getting easier.
nice. Yeah, for now. Wait till you hit day 40, day 50.
Yeah, that's fair. But I got to be honest, there's just absolutely zero chance that I don't see this one over the finish line.
Z-
It's giving too
Zero
much.
options mentality, baby. That's what it takes.
This is the only thing.
No excuses. That's what our episode is about
No
today.
excuses.
Excuses, how to deal with them, right? Um, and a framework for dealing with them. Let's talk about it.
100%.
So, all right, excuses. We all make them. I would say that my brain immediately goes to excuses as soon as I wake up every morning because I never want to go outside. So I'm very familiar with dealing with excuses and overcoming them. And also not overcoming them because for about 28 years of my entire life, I did not overcome them. I let them overcome me. So I'm excited to talk to you about this today because I'm curious, how you overcome them and how we can kind of parlay that into the audience and create some sort of tactical or practical method of overcoming them.
100%. I was thinking about it earlier and how long I let excuses dictate the direction of my life is it feels embarrassing, and it's alarming in terms of it's like your mind is a horse and you're on the horse and you're riding, and excuses are like the horse is actually just out of control and taking you wherever it wants to go. And so as I've reflected on like what that means, listening to excuses is, I think, quite literally being out of control of your life. It is, it's a situation in which whatever it is that you actually want to be accomplishing is being circumvented by, I mean, essentially the bitch voice, right? Like I think excuses are, it's just a manifestation. It's a direct phone line to the bitch voice, to your comfort zone, to your ego trying to protect itself. And so excuses on the surface seem in any given moment, and they're really good at it, at unimportant missteps in you not having the identity that you want to have. But as we've gone down this journey of understanding personal development and the repetition it takes, I've started to recognize that every excuse is this, it should be viewed as a huge miss in my mind because it's a missed rep. It's a missed rep on the identity that you want. And ultimately, it's a vote for the comfort zone. And so I've definitely recently, but I think over the past couple of years, as we've gone in and studied this, just realized how important it is to identify when you're making excuses and just how big of a deal it is, and not to minimize when it's happening.
Yeah, I think I mean there's so many different if I just think about my average day, I like what you said how giving into an excuse is just giving into your bitch voice essentially is what it is. And but every time that you cuz here's the thing, you're going to make excuses for yourself. It's just a matter of do you give into that excuse or do you overcome that excuse? You're never going to stop making excuses. There's always going to be that little voice in your head that tells you, get up or stay in bed, do the work or, wait a little bit longer. But every single time one of those excuses pops into your head and you overcome that excuse, it is another way to point yourself in the direction of the identity of the person that you want to have. You are creating a win in that moment. Every single time an excuse comes to your brain, it's an opportunity for you to actually move closer to the identity of the person that you want to be. It's also an opportunity for you to regress back into your old identity, but every time that one of those pops up in your brain, you have to look at it as an opportunity to become closer to the best version of yourself by overcoming that excuse. And in that moment, as soon as you overcome that, you stack a win. And doing that throughout the entire day, starting, first thing in the morning, for example, and then later throughout the day, the more you stack those wins, the easier it becomes to not give into the excuse the next time because you're living the identity of that version of yourself already. Um, so yeah, I would think it would be helpful. I know you have some notes on here too. I think it would be helpful if we talked about some of the excuses that we each have, that we each personally go through. Because I'm sure if we have them, other people have them too.
100%. Before we jump to that, I just want to pull out one practical thing that you just said. And I think that we should wrap on this at the end of the show is every time you identify an excuse, which I think is a skill in and of itself, you need to be aware of when the excuses enter your mind and identify them. That instead of listening to the excuse, start training your brain to think opportunity. This is an opportunity to beat the excuse. And so that immediate reframing starts to put you in a position of power and a position of strength to take advantage of an opportunity versus being a victim of whatever, the horse riding off into the distance after you just fell off and are going to do whatever your comfort zone, ego, bitch voice mind wants you to do. And so you oftentimes come out with really practical exercises that I just want to make sure that we identify for the audience as we talk about
Yeah,
them.
no, the most what you just reminded me of is something I listened to Goggins say, which is, and it's just an easy way to correlate this. When it's 30 degrees and freezing rain outside, and you have an excuse of, I don't want to go outside and do my run or whatever in this 30 degrees and freezing rain, you have to look at that as an opportunity for you to go and become. Most people don't have the opportunity to go out and run in 30-degree and freezing rain and gain the mental strength that it takes to actually go and do that. So when you have the opportunity to do that, there's other people sitting in, Miami or LA and it's 70 degrees and sunny. You're out there in the 30-degree freezing rain becoming a hard ass motherfucker that other people don't have the opportunity to do. And when Goggins said that to me, it totally reframed the way that I look at any type of excuse when it comes to outdoor workouts. And obviously it parlays into all other areas of life. But that to me resonated so well. And I just understand it. So I agree. And what are some of the excuses that you make in your daily life or, your life in general?
I'm definitely an early morning excuse maker, especially in bed and getting out of bed. There are so many coddling reasons to tell yourself first thing in the morning as to why staying in bed is okay. And so I've definitely that's probably been one of my bigger struggles over time is just to say I'm up and out after the first alarm, which it doesn't seem like a lot right in the moment, but it's a vote for the discipline for the type of person that I want to be. And so, yeah, I think getting up early in the morning has been a struggle. Historically with food, I'll find a way to justify things if I'm not. And it comes back to having specific challenges. Like on 75 hard, it's been so easy because I know this is the way. But when I'm not on a regimented plan, slipping a couple times a week on something that falls outside of what I know is my target diet is just so easy because anything with weight and fitness is so linear that you feel like slipping once, does it even matter? And so, yeah, I'd say morning.
Well, let me ask you this about the morning because I'm curious. If you're telling
Sure.
yourself in the morning or if you're having trouble in the morning, what do you tell yourself? to get over that excuse. You're laying there in bed, you wake up, you hear the alarm, and you're thinking, fuck, I just want to lay here for the next hour. What do you tell yourself to get up?
Well, and this is where I think it gets important. And this is a whole nother conversation, but like, what is your purpose? What is your why? What is the adventure I'm on right now in my life? And I need to make sure that that is well defined for myself. And then connecting that vision to why getting out of bed matters to support that. Because in a given moment, like the pleasure of laying in bed is like it's like heroin. It's like one of the greatest pleasures in life for me. And so I need to really like I need to deeply connect to a sense of pain as to why staying in bed is a really fucking bad thing. And so to do that, it needs to be the antithesis of the identity that I've created for myself. And so being a ripped badass CEO, that guy does not lay in bed to the third alarm. It just doesn't add up for that type of identity. And so it really comes down to putting the work in first, to really knowing who is it that I'm trying to be in the first place, and then calling out that action just has nothing to do with that person. And so it's a pleasure pain. It's finding different ways to connect pleasure and pain to that action. And so for me, like I said, heroin, like I've had to really establish a new identity, how important that identity is to me, and then make the connection that laying in bed is what a lazy person does. It's what the average person does. It's what mediocrity is. And so connecting those things together is the critical piece, where now this is an opportunity to vote for the right guy instead of taking another hit of heroin.
It's really interesting how you frame that, because I am so similar to you. Like it is my heroin. There's nothing I love more than waking up in the morning and
Love
just
it. Love it.
not getting up and just laying there. There's nothing that feels as good as just laying there in the morning. I don't know what it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's just such a calming, relaxing feeling. But I'm thinking about it right now, like it's heroin. But man, no, it's just so true. And the way that you said that makes me think, like, subconsciously, that is what I do too. I think about it a little differently. But at the end of the day, what you're saying is what I do too. So just to give you context, when I wake up in the morning, I think if every morning I wake up and I want to lay there. There's not a single morning I wake up and I actually want to get up. Maybe once a month, that I'm like feeling motivated. But for the most part, I'm a heroin addict in the morning. I just want to lay there. And I tell myself, in an hour from now, because I've done this enough to know, in an hour from now, if I don't get up, I'm going to feel like a piece of shit. Like I'm going to feel like I failed the morning. I'm not going to have as good of a day, because I'm going to feel that feeling of failing the morning, because I did. I know that I failed the morning, and I am so self-aware. I'm aware enough of myself now to know that I'm capable of more. So when I wake up and I think about that, I think, do I want to feel like this for the rest of the day? Like I did not win the morning, and like I did not do what I was capable of, because that means for the rest of the day, I'm going to spend the day thinking about, I didn't do what I was capable of. And now for the rest of the day, I'm probably going to carry that same mentality into the rest of the day and not live up to my potential that day. But on the other hand, I think if I get up in an hour from now, I'm going to feel amazing. It's not going to feel good getting up for the next 10 minutes, but I know that in about 10 minutes, once I go outside first thing in the morning, once I get outside, I see the sunlight, I will feel better. And I just associate that regret versus that satisfaction first thing in the morning, instead of immediately taking the instant gratification of just laying there. But when you said what you just said, it made me realize that what that decision actually is that I'm making every morning is regarding my identity and my deeper purpose. And it's really just me negotiating with myself of, am I going to live to the identity of the person I want to be, or am I going to be the old Josh? And it's really just a battle between identities every morning when I wake up. So thank you for saying that the way you did, because it totally resonates with me. It makes so much sense, man. And I'm sure a lot of other people deal with this.
Oh, like it's too good not to be a universal truth that laying in bed is just it's one of the best, most addicting things. There's just, like you said, the comfort, the calm. And so the inertia to overcome that like needs tools. Like I don't like it sounds silly almost when you talk about it just being like that big of a deal, but it is quite literally the setting the tone for the entire day. And it's hard to come back from losing first thing and then go on to be a winner for the rest of the day. And so I've also had to relate that to myself in terms of defining the importance, which then implicitly defies the level of pain that you should feel with the thing. It's like, how important is this to me? Well, if it's very important, then it should be painful when I get it wrong. That how are you going to win the day if you don't win the first battle? Like if you're down by 30 points in the first quarter, like you can win, but is that a game you want to be playing every single week or every single day, day in and day out? And so as we're just talking about this, it might be one of the most important things for people to start getting right in the first place, because it creates natural momentum for the rest of your day. And if you can start with that, I think the ball just
why
gets
start down
rolling.
30 points when you can start up 30 points? That's a great
100%.
metaphor, dude. I like how that's a great analogy.
We were talking about it earlier, and you wake up and then in like your first couple hours, you do your power list. And so you basically go up by 30 points in the first like couple hours of your day. If you really wanted to, you could coast for the rest of the day and probably on 90% of days still call that a win.
I just told you, I literally finished every single task list that I have for the entire day. It's 9:22 a.m. here. So, and I do that purposefully because you never know what's going to happen, by the way, the rest of the day. Fires happen, you got to put out. Unexpected things happen that you got to take care of. For me, the first hour of the day is my own personal reflection time. I don't look at my phone. I don't do anything. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I go to the bathroom, I read 10 pages, and then I go on my outdoor walk or run. And then when I get back, I look at my phone and I get my power list items done for work or anything that I want to do that day. And as soon as I'm done with all that, I have won the day. At that point, I have won the day. And everything I do at that point forward is much easier to win because I'm up 30 points or I'm up 50 points within 2 hours of waking up. Versus if I were to do nothing the first 2 hours and lay in bed, I would be down 50 points and I would be dragging the entire day to get back just to break even or whatever. So it's a really good way to put it. I'm curious. This is a good practice, by the way. I could tell already of us talking about specific excuses that we have and how we get over them. Because the bed thing I know is huge. Tom Billy talks about this all the time. He goes, I used to wake up and lay in bed for 4 to 5 hours a day, which was me, by the way. I did that every single day for years. And he has this rule now where he gets up in 10 minutes or less. And I know I've talked to so many people about this. A lot of people have that problem. But what's another problem that you have that maybe a lot of people have? The diet thing. That's a huge thing, I'm sure. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing, right? Like, or one of the biggest things.
And how can it not be? You're just touching on, this is evolutionary human psychology. You're trained to love these foods and your mind is just constantly pushing you in a certain direction. And it's not anybody's fault, but you can't be a victim to the circumstance of even your evolutionary psychology of what your like inner desires are to consume calories in a certain way. And so, yeah,
So how do you get over it? How do you, just like the bed thing?
And this one seems more straightforward because in my mind, fitness goals are like the most concrete goals you can set for yourself. And it's really just in the absence of that clarity that I personally lose what it is that I'm doing and lose what it is that I'm doing in the sense of like the foods that I pick and the boundaries that I've set for myself. And so I think it really is a function of not letting, like having a clear definition of what you are going to do and what you aren't going to do, and then sticking with that. For me, having the concrete definitions is the key. And it's okay if those things include some level of comfort in them. You just need to make sure that that is actually what you then stick to. It's where I'm like, hey, I'm like I'm eating healthy right now. Like, what the hell does that mean? And so then all of a sudden I'll find that like I'll take down a half bag of like dark chocolate, like candies on a Saturday. And I'm like, it wasn't that unhealthy. And like I didn't exactly say what like healthy's supposed to be. And like my other 90% of meals were like, you know, perfect. But I'm still like, did that really feel like the diet of the identity that we were talking about before? But I didn't do myself the favor of like perfectly defining what a win and a win isn't. And so if ahead of time I could say that on Saturdays, I'm going to like consume or give myself like one cheat meal or one dessert or whatever that is, and then stick to that, and it's within a boundary, I think that that is a way easier position that you put yourself in. And then also when you're making the excuse, it's very easy to call out that like, no, this excuse is exactly against the definition of what success is. Whereas when you got this ambiguous definition of success, well, like, is it an excuse? Which is just your excuse is doing a really good job of convincing you, like of you negotiating with yourself, like you said. So don't give yourself negotiating leverage against the version of yourself that you want to be.
I'm noticing a pattern here because what you're saying about getting out of bed is you have to be very clear on your purpose and your identity and who you want to be. It's the same exact thing that you just said, just a different way about the excuse you make with diet or fitness. It's you have a clear definition of what you want to accomplish, who you want to be, the identity you want to hold, and that is what guides your decisions. And it sounds cliche, but like, everybody always says you have to have a purpose, because if you don't have a purpose, the decisions you make, you don't have a north star to guide the decisions you make. And it is so true. When you are very clear on who you want to become, every single decision that you make, you can correlate to the person that you want to become. Is this decision going to get me closer to the person I want to become, or is it going to take me further away? And if you don't have that definition of the person you want to become, how can you even make that comparison when it's time to make that decision? You have no north star that you're going for. So what even matters what decision you make? So I think what we're going to find throughout as we continue to talk about this, we'll see, we'll go over a couple more, but I have a feeling that what we're going to find after we talk about all these is that it comes down to having some sort of clear mission, purpose, and goals for your own life that you have to set so that you can make the decision in that moment on what your goals even are. So I if I explained that correctly.
I think you did. I think what you're describing is the most foundational step in living a life that you actually want to live. And there's 100 podcast episodes for us to go through. I think the foundations of that identity building, that purpose building, what is your why? And I think even like that step should always come first. But even in the absence of that, on like a daily basis, if you need a quick fix on how to start thinking about things, like how to make a change quickly on stop making excuses for food, I think just the act of getting specific on what success and failure are, which are much easier to define if you have a purpose and you have a why and you have an identity that you want to commit to. But even if you're not there yet and you're just like this next week, going to try and make a difference on how you think about, like, practice making a difference on how you think about food and the decisions you make. Just create very specific boundaries about what success is and isn't, so that you know what failure is and isn't. And you've got those clear lines in the sand. And that way you're not guessing, or when you're making an excuse, it's very easy to be aware of that excuse.
Yeah, and then there's some other excuses that are more subtle, right? Like I was talking to you earlier. One excuse that I go through all the time is I tell myself there's a specific task with work, for example. Let's say I have 10 tasks that I have to get done for the day. And I know there's one that is the most important, but I'm dreading it the most. So an excuse that I'll use is I'm going to do all these other tasks first that are easier for me to get done, and I'll save this one for later. That is that excuse haunts me because I do it all the time. Because I tell myself, okay, well, I'm going to get this done no matter what. I'm going to do this other stuff first just because it's easier. When in reality, it's the same theory I have about the power list first thing in the morning. And it's why I created this, so that I could get those things done first thing in the morning. Because, and in all reality, that is a major excuse. I should be doing that one first. I should be knocking out the most important one, regardless of how much I'm dreading it, before anything else. And using an excuse that I'll get it done later, and I'm still feeling productive. I'm still getting stuff done. I'm not making an excuse that I'm going to work later. So it's, when I say it's subtle, that's what I mean. It is an excuse. It's a different form of procrastination. I'm still being productive, just not on the one specific thing that I'm dreading that I know I should be doing before any of the other nine. So I just wanted to bring that up because I guarantee you 99% of people deal with the exact same thing.
That is such a good call out. And I think the term subtle is right. As you said that, like, I at 100% do that. I juggle a couple different major priorities in my life as far as work goes. And so I've got an easy out at times to say that, you know what, I'm just going to go get to, like, this list of things I can knock out just because it's low hanging fruit, right? It's just I can just go get it done. Like, as I'm saying it out loud, that is literally the excuse in my head from, it's keeping me in my comfort zone is what it is, because usually the highest impact thing is something that is outside your comfort zone. Like in business, it's probably prospecting and making a phone call to a stranger to buy something where you're probably going to hear a no. And that is not the thing that anybody wants to go do. It's way easier to send an email to your team about an update about what you just got done. Like, that feels really productive to let everybody know about how productive you are. When in reality, like, you could be dialing the phone, doing the hard thing. And I'm literally speaking to myself right now because this is a dichotomy that I live in. Like, as a CEO, like, it's great to send updates. It's way harder to go be the face of the business and go network with people that, like, probably 80% of them, 90%, 95% of them don't want to hear from me. And so making the decision to do the hard things that you know align with the greatest value, because ultimately if I make that sale, like, it's pales in comparison to my team getting an update from me, right? Like, I look at those two different things. It's clear to me which one is higher value, and it's clear to me which one I would rather do, like, in any given moment. And so that's a hell of a call
Well,
out.
it goes with what you were saying, or what you noted, which is excuses. You said excuses protect you from pain and give you short-term immediate pleasure, but at what cost, right? And you said that, which is basically your excuse to not do the prospecting call or whatever is protecting you from the pain of rejection or from the pain of just having to do it, but at what cost? At the cost of, not growing the business, or not, whatever the case may be. The excuses definitely come at some cost. So I like how you said that, though. It protects you from your pain. It's very true. The excuses definitely protect you. They're designed to protect you from, they're designed to keep you in the comfort zone, to keep you from suffering.
100%. I mean, There's no place that I suffer less than laying in bed first thing in the morning. And so
Dude,
I'm pretty sure that's when the excuses are
that's gonna
strongest.
be a reoccurring theme on this show, by the way, is just laying in bed in the morning because it is my favorite pastime. So we're definitely gonna talk about that. But it's something that I still struggle with, probably more than anything else to this day, even though it's something I still do. And I could win 75 days in a row for 75 hard. I could win the day and get up first thing in the morning. Day 76 is still so fucking hard. Like, there, dude, it's been 2 years. Day 1,000 is hard, bro. It never gets easier. It really doesn't. So, I know that will be a reoccurring theme. And like I said, every morning it's an opportunity to become that best version of ourselves.
I think one more I want to touch on, just because I think that it's a widespread one, is just this concept of not having time. And I just think that that is such a shitty excuse. But I hear it from definitely hear it from my parents a lot. Hopefully they aren't listening to this podcast yet. But it's just one of the most ridiculous excuses that I think I've ever heard. And so this is one I don't really personally suffer from. I'm never saying that I don't have time, because I've really come to the conclusion that I have time for whatever it is that I want to do, because it's just a function of prioritization. But if you look at anything in your life, like, it is just it's like you're almost just shitting on your ability to prioritize when you say, I don't have time. Like you've just said, like, if it really mattered to you, you would have time. And odds are, if I followed you around with a stopwatch all day, that I would be able to discover time in your day to do that thing that you're saying is important to you. And so I think, like, that is a table stakes one that I think is ubiquitous, that people should, like, rip out of their vocabulary, because it's unfair to you, and it's like this blanket excuse that I think is it literally just doesn't make any sense, because you will find time for the things that you care about most. And so make sure that you're prioritizing in a way that you do have time for those things. Like, I think that is actually what self-love is. When I hear people say that I don't have time for things, I think to myself, like, you are not doing right by you then, to not find time for something that you care about. Like, that is so unfair to you. Like,
Dude, people say all the time, like, they're, people I talk to about doing 75 hard, friends or whatever, they go, well, one of my buddies, he goes, I don't have time to do 75 hard right now. I'm focused on starting this new business. I want to put all my time and effort into work and, getting this thing off the ground. And I go, I understand your point. It's time consuming to do 2 workouts a day and whatever. But this is the exact time you should be doing 75 hard, because it will allow you to focus on, yes, it will take time, but it will also free up so much of your time, because you'll get your priorities straight and it will give you the focus that you need to build your business. All the time that you're spending doing the 75 hard tasks are actually going to help you free up time elsewhere and get the shit that you need to get done. And when I stopped, the first time I ever did 75 hard is when I also haven't dealt with this problem, because luckily I do feel like I have more time than most people. I don't have kids. My wife works freaking constantly. Like, I do feel like, and even though I have a ton of stuff to get done, I feel lucky in the sense that I have a lot of time to do it. But when I first did 75 hard the first time, I saw, nurses who were working during COVID, who had 4 kids at home, who still got all of their tasks in, who worked 12-hour shifts and will wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get their workout done, go to work from 6 to 6, get home at 6:30 p.m., get their workout done, take care of their 4 kids. Single parent. I realized, holy shit, there are people who have literally no time and still get their stuff done. There are CEOs who run multi-billion-dollar businesses and have way less time, I'm sure, than somebody like me, and still gets their workout in every single day. So They say comparison is the thief of joy, but there are ways to healthily compare yourself to somebody else. If I look at somebody else and I compare myself to them and say, wow, I am really not living up to my potential because I see this person who has way more excuses than me and they're getting it done. That should make me feel bad about myself. Like, there's no reason I should feel good about myself when I see that. So, using comparison in that way is actually healthy, in my opinion. But seeing that, bro, made me realize like everybody has time. If you are a single parent of four, a nurse that works 12-hour shifts, and you still have the time to get your 2 workouts done for 75 hard and drink your gallon and read your 10 pages and do all your things, that makes me feel like every time I say I don't have time, I am being a major bitch, which is the truth. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that because to this day, I still think about that nurse and I still tell people when they say they don't have time, well, you don't have any kids. You got no girlfriend. You got no wife. You got nothing and you don't have fucking time. What the fuck is wrong with you, man?
That's so good. And I think, again, I think this is a whole nother episode, but this, like, the concept of comparison is not a useful one when you're looking at results because everyone's situation is different and how they got there. But it is useful when you look at it on an activity basis. And you're like, all right, if that person can go get 5 things done that I can also do, because everybody can go work out twice, everyone can read a book, everyone can drink the gallon, and they're getting it done on their schedule versus what my schedule is, I think that's healthy comparison. And that should create some level of discomfort or discontent for you to bridge a gap in your life. So actually, I've never heard someone use comparison in a positive light before. Like, it's kind of just like it's a buzz to say that don't compare yourself to other people. You heard it here on the Mindset Mogul podcast first. It's good to compare yourself to people on an activity basis if it helps you rip excuses out of your life.
Absolutely. All right, where are we at now?
So
let's see. What are the big? I think okay. I like what you put here. By the way, we have some show notes, guys, that we're going off of. That's why we're looking at this. But one of the things that you wrote down here are for the audience members. What are your biggest excuses that you are making right now? Write down the big 3. Like for me, the big 3, right off the top of my head, would be every morning. Like I overcome the excuse, but every morning, when it comes to food, I mean, honestly, it's probably the same. I'm sure that what my excuses are probably very similar to what other people's excuses are because universally we tend to do similar activities as humans. One of them is laying in bed. One of them is not giving in to cheat meals or sweets or whatever. And I would say another one is, those are the biggest 2. I got to think about the third one that I say that the third one is the work thing that I was telling you that I deal with constantly. Like those are by far my top 3 that I make all the time.
So I would challenge the audience to even like look more globally at what excuses you're making in your life. And I think, Josh, you're in a place where you're in active pursuit of the things that you want in life. Like you've overcome the step where your daily activities are aligned with the identity you have and the goals that you want. But I do think that there are a lot of people out there that are in a job that they don't want. Potentially they're in a relationship that doesn't fit the mold of how they want it to be going, whether that's a function of themselves or the person that they're with. There are people whose like their health is far from where it needs to be and their baseline activity levels or food are far from where they need to be. And so thinking about excuses on like a global level, like really it is like limiting beliefs, but what are the excuses that you're making that are keeping you from actually pursuing the life that you want in a big way? Because I think that those, if you can get those right, like you are set on a track to be in a situation where you're facing more daily excuses like you are to stay on the track. But for those that don't feel like they're on the track yet, they're not pursuing their own adventure. They're not living the vision of the life that they want. Identify what excuses are causing that to happen and write those down, because I think those are the first and biggest things you need to get in place in your mind. And then the follow up exercise to that is, what does your life look like in 5 years if you keep making these excuses? Like, live that moment deeply. And you should feel, if these really are excuses that are keeping you from what you want, there should be pain in 5 years. You shouldn't be the person you want to be. Your life should look not how you want it to, and the vision for what you think it is. And so live in that moment in 5 years, like deeply feel what it would feel like if you keep making these excuses. Do that for 10 minutes and then think about it in 20 years. Like, what is the level of disappointment that you will suffer as a function of not making these big changes, of living these excuses for 20 years? And then after you're like super miserable from doing that, maybe take a moment to like walk around the block, but then do the flip equation and say, if I stopped making these excuses, if I started to pursue the financial goals that I had and made a change out of the job that I hate, if I got in line with my partner and made sure that we were communicating in a way that was healthy and loving and building something together for the long term, what does my life look like in 5 years if I could commit to that? And then what does it look like in 20? And all of a sudden, you've now painted two different roads for yourself. And hopefully the one where you don't make the excuses looks so good and is so pleasurable that when you compare it to the future version where you keep making the excuses, that the choice is just obvious. And then at that point, like, you can start making decisions where the excuses just roll off you. But that's an exercise that I've been doing myself as we've like been on this journey to be on the journey that we want to be on.
Dude, there's no better way to end it. That is the perfect exercise. I'm going to do that myself now, just for the hell of it, because first of all, I think that no matter what you have accomplished, whether you are in that career or in that relationship that you don't want to be in, or you're making $10 million a year, you're having the best time of your life. I think that what you just said is important to do frequently. It's just an important life practice so that you always, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, so that you can have and identify a North Star. Because if you continue living your excuses, your North Star is going to be those 5 years and that 20-year plan. That's miserable. But if you identify that North Star of the 5-year or 20-year path of not giving into your excuses, it will make it easier to do that in the moment. So I think that's a great practice. I'm going to do it myself. And yeah, man, thanks for sharing that. And great episode today. I think this was awesome. Everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever the duties are. We appreciate you. Anything else, Brad?
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to start calling each other in bed in the morning to make sure that we're up.
Sounds good. I'll call you at like 3 a.m. your time. Get your ass up.
All right,
oh, man, that's funny. Yeah. Oh man, that reminds me of being in high school. My mom used to make my friends breakfast sandwiches to come over and get me out of bed because I never wanted to get up. Oh man. All right. Well, this was great. Everybody, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.